Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Choranandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sorry. Okay. All right. We are on page 385. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 14th day of January, 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text number 7, page 385. Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakatim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshehe Punastani Kalpado Visvajamyaham Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakatim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshehe Punastani Kalpado Visvajamyaham Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakatim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshehe Punastani Kalpado Visvajamyaham. Dharmaraj. Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakatim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshehe Punastani Kalpado Visvajamyaham. Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakatim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshehe Punastani Kalpado Visvajamyaham. Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakatim Pakatim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani kalpado visrajamyaham sarvabhutani kaunteya Prakatim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani visrajamyaham kalpado visrajamyaham. You want to try? Sarvabhutani kaunteya Prakatim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani visrajamyaham kalpado visrajamyaham. Okay, I'll just read it myself, you can read along. Sarvabhutani, all created entities, Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, Prakatim, nature, Yanti, enter, Mamikam, my, Kalpakshaye, at the end of the millennium. Punaha, again, Tani, all those, Kalpa Adau, in the beginning of the millennium, Visrajami, create, Aham, I. Translation. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. Purport. The creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this material cosmic manifestation are completely dependent on the supreme will of the personality of Godhead. At the end of the millennium means at the death of Brahma. Brahma lives for 100 years, and his one day is calculated at 4,300,000,000 of our earthly years. His night is of the same duration. His month consists of 30 such days and nights, and his year of 12 months. After 100 such years, when Brahma dies, the devastation or annihilation takes place. This means that the energy manifested by the Supreme Lord is again wound up in himself. Then again, when there is a need to manifest the cosmic world, it is done by his will. Bahusyam. Although I am one, I shall become many. This is the Vedic aphorism, Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.3. He expands himself in this material energy, and the whole cosmic manifestation again takes place. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So in the perfect philosophy of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, we find plenty of description of Krishna's glories, his magnificent creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this whole manifestation. These lifetime of Brahma is completely inconceivable. 4,320,000,000 years. That's his day time, meaning his 12 hours. And he has a nighttime of equal that. And then you multiply that out, and it gets to be 311 trillion, 40 billion years. Who can conceive of even, a bit of that? But that's how long Brahma lives, and that's how long this whole cosmic manifestation exists. And then the whole thing is dissolved, wound up, and merges back into the body of Mahavishnu. When he says into me, he means his manifestation as Mahavishnu. We have a painting in the corner there. There's all of these expansions. Krishna himself, in his internal desire, is just to play. He's just into playing, Leela, rasa. That's what he wants to do, just as we want to do. Right? Nobody likes hauling up the work, to make the money to pay the bills and all this stuff. Really what you want is the weekend, right? Is where you can just kind of do what you want to do, and try to imitate Krishna. The thing is, our attempts at being carefree are impossible because we're under this burden of the material energy, which we've drawn on ourselves. It's our own fault. From leaving Krishna's shelter, turning away from him, trying to be the lords and masters and enjoyers of this world. That's our original mistake. So the idea is that we need to be enlightened and given enough faith so that we'll begin to turn back to Krishna. The whole process of bhakti is turning again to Krishna and reforming our consciousness, which has been covered and contaminated since time immemorial. So many births of Brahma have come and gone, and we've spent some of them as human beings, many as lower species. We never die. There's always another body coming, spiritual or material. And so Krishna, in this chapter, he's giving us confidential knowledge, and that includes his own position. And here he's just describing how inconceivably great he is, that even Brahma, it's described in the Brahma Samhita, right? Yasyaika nishudata kalamata avalambe jivanti loma vilaja jagadananata. Jagadananata refers to Brahma. That's the lords of this egg-like universe, and Anda is an egg. So the Jagat is a universe. Why is it like an egg? Because there's a little space, right? We understand there's a little space inside, little, 4 billion miles wide. It's meant to, this our universe. There are different sizes, and that's the space where all the planets are and everything happens. But then there's a covering of earth, water, fire, coverings of earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. And each one of them is 10 times bigger than the last. The first being Earth, which is 10 times bigger than the width of the diameter of the universe. In other words, 40 billion miles. And then 400 billion and 4,000. 4,000 billion is what? 4 trillion. So it gets the coverings get very big very fast. And here where it is in this little internal, just 4 billion miles. So there's called Jagat Anda, the egg of the universe. And the Nata, or the lords, are the Brahmas. There's more than just one Brahma. And so this whole manifestation, all the universes last just for the length of one breath of that Mahavishnu. Emphasis on the Maha. You can imagine, Prabhupada said you can imagine the caliber of this Mahavishnu. All the universes are coming out of his nostrils, out of the pores. He's breathing them out. And then that's the time when Brahma lives. Our lives are just flipping through like little, less than 1 instant, as we go through and we're going. And we're placing so much importance on so many things during our lifetime. Oh, it's so important, so important. That's one of the benefits of getting older. You can look back on your life and see, especially in looking back on the time before you heard about Krishna, how you place so much importance on things in each stage of your life. Right, a child doesn't know anything about the worries of the parents. He's just so concerned about this friend, that friend, this game. And someone stole my baseball mitt, whatever. It's like, but for that time and that moment, that's what's so important. But when you grow up, it's still just putting a lot of importance of things that are just fleeting, like a dream. It's like you're in a dream, and in that dream, so many very important things are happening. You're threatened by this. This looks like pleasurable over there. And then you wake up and it's just a dream, right? So Prabhupada makes the point, this is just a dream also. It's a dream. It has absolutely no significance. That's why near the beginning the Bhagavatam says, whatever dharma you're performing, dharma in general being a discipline to supposedly improve your life somehow. Now, the nature, the actual meaning of dharma is that which is intrinsic to your being. But our dharma, everything has a dharma. I think a chair has a dharma, right? You trust the chair. You sit on it, it's going to support your weight. If it collapses, it's not meaning it's dharma, right? It's a chair in name only. So there can be kaitava dharma. At the beginning of Bhagavatam, we learn about kaitava dharma, ku dharma, cheating religion, which pretends to be that which can really give you what you need, but really isn't. Just like in modern day, there's these huge churches, isn't it? Mega churches where people go, and the whole idea is that you pray there, and you go home and you send in some donation and this and that, and you're going to get something. You'll get cured of your disease, and you'll get rich, or something like that. Prosperity, theology or something. It's completely kaitava dharma. It's a con, using the name of God to milk the innocent out of their money. So Dharma is very important. So Krishna comes, as we learned in the 4th chapter, when real Dharma has been obscured. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata. Dharma glani is distortion of Dharma. And people are being cheated. So why does Krishna come? Because he's concerned. He never stops caring for us, although we forget all about him. Right? We're just like wayward children who forget all about their parents and try to go on the streets of San Francisco and have a good time. It happens all the time. You know, when will they call? When will they write? When will they text? You know, come and pick me up. So even though we don't call or text, Krishna still comes, tries to pick us up. And what he gives, especially when he comes personally, he gives knowledge. And, more important, he gives a demonstration of his most attractive Leela in Vrindavan. That's mentioned in the 10th canto. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manushim deham astitaha bhajate tadrishi kridaya shudva tatparo bhavet. That out of my compassion for my devotees especially, but everyone's a devotee, but especially devotees who have, longing to see Krishna, he comes and enacts replicas of the Leela that are going on in the spiritual world. And renew the remembrance. And having heard about them, one should become devoted to him. In other words, he's attracting us by his pastimes and his qualities. And that's all recorded in Bhagavatam, so we can hear about it. So Bhagavad Gita it doesn't have so much of that Leela, but it has philosophy, so that we will realize our insignificance and our helplessness without Krishna. And this is one of the verses that describes it. There are many in Bhagavad Gita. All living entities merge into me. Prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshiye. At the end of the kalpa, at the end of the millennium. Prabhupada uses millennium, he gives new meaning to words. Millennium literally means 1,000 years. But here in millennium, in this instance, means the life of Brahma. So it's a long time, but it comes to an end. And then again, at the beginning, they're manifested. So we're going through these cycles. Everything is cyclical. Thank you. And there's this destruction, then this long period of suspended animation where we're unconscious, but we still have the seed of our karma and the desires adhering to us in our mind, but we're oblivious. And then again we come out, and eventually we start all over again and resume and start with the karmic thing. So that's what he's describing. Kalpados visvajamyaham, and he'll continue with this theme, and then he's going to get to the point where he describes those who are on their way out of this entanglement, the devotees. And in this chapter we'll learn about kirtan, how the devotees are always chanting my name, satatam kirti yanto mam. Prabhupada, there's a famous exchange of letters Prabhupada had with one professor. It's in the Science of Self-Realization book, I think. And he was questioning, because the devotees suddenly started appearing on campuses and they were chanting and dancing. And this is a professor who was a professor of religion or something, and he knew something about Eastern religion. So where does it say that we're supposed to be chanting and dancing? He had this conception, you sit in meditation and that whole thing. So the Prabhupada, right here in the Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, satatam kirti yanto mam, that they're always chanting my name. So that's very encouraging. This chapter, this part of the confidential knowledge is kirtan. Okay, any questions on this particular verse of how we all merge and then come out of Krishna? Okay. Text 8. Prakritim svam avashtabhya visvajami punak punaha bhuta gramam imam kritsnam avisham prakriter vishat. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will it is annihilated at the end. Purport. The material world is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This has already been explained several times. At the creation, the material energy is let loose as the Mahat Tattva, into which the Lord, as his first Purusha incarnation, Mahavishnu, enters. He lies within the causal ocean and breathes out innumerable universes, and into each universe the Lord again enters as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Each universe is in that way created. He still further manifests himself as Chirodakashayi Vishnu, and that Vishnu enters into everything, even into the minute atom. This fact is explained here. He enters into everything. Now, as far as the living entities are concerned, they are impregnated into the material nature, and as a result of their past deeds, they take different positions. Thus, the activities of this material world begin. The activities of the different species of living beings are begun from the very moment of the creation. It is not that all is evolved. The different species of life are created immediately along with the universe. Men, animals, beasts, birds, everything is simultaneously created, because whatever desires the living entities had at the last annihilation are again manifested. It is clearly indicated here by the word avasham that the living entities have nothing to do with this process. The state of being in their past life, in the past creation, is simply manifested again, and all this is done simply by his will. This is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of God. And after creating different species of life, he has no connection with them. The creation takes place to accommodate the inclinations of the various living entities, and so the Lord does not become involved with it. So one thing that's kind of essential here to understand is that we take our position both in our regular little incarnations from body to body, as well as after this long sleep within Mahavishnu, according to our previous activities. So we have, in the human form of life, we have a freedom, we have independence to choose what kind of activities we're going to perform, what kind of mentality we're going to cultivate. That's the whole point. The great value of the human life is that it's a life of responsibility. That's why there's karma. The animals don't have karma. They're working off whatever karma they performed as human beings. When you have knowledge of right and wrong, or you should have it, then that's when you have a responsibility. So it's a great opportunity. This is one of the things to realize is how essential a human life is, and how every moment should be utilized in trying to get a better next life. That next life means in this life as well as in our future life. And what is that better next life? To really end this whole process of constantly coming and going, merging into Mahavishnu and all that business. That is not our natural state. Our natural state is eternally to be awake in the Leela of Krishna, where we came from. We've all had that place. That's why Prabhupada's famous phrase, going back home, back to Godhead, is so important. It's so encouraging. We can do that. I remember in the early days, we all thought, we're all going back. Yeah, we're going back. Haribol, Haribol. Prabhupada just kept promising us, you just follow the 4 regs, you chant 16 rounds, go out on Harinam, distribute food books, and Haribol. We'll go back to Godhead. It was a great, encouragement. And the process does work. The thing is, it's not so easy to do over a lifetime, and without it was so conditioned. So it takes some determination. It takes a lot of determination and strictness. But it's also very encouraging from the very beginning. 2nd chapter, Krishna encourages Neha bhikkamanashosti pratyavaya navidyate. There is no loss and no diminution in this process. Unlike anything material. You'll be the most successful musician, athlete, businessman, politician, whatever you may be. Get all kinds of accolades, make all kind of money, but you all leave it behind. And whatever activities you performed in relation to the universal laws that are unchangeable, you're violating that. In other words, if you're sinning in order to get what you're doing, and then you're going to suffer like anything. You're going to lose everything, and it's described in detail in the third canto, 5th canto, what happens. So we don't want, we can be happy in this lifetime. What to speak of next lifetime? We can give up the pain of material attachment. This is really what we have to understand. Material attachment is kind of a disease that is the essential part of our conditioning. this attachment for trying to enjoy this lifetime, which inevitably leads to misery, because you can't do it for any length of time. You can hope, you can work for it, you maybe get a little taste of it, but it goes away, and eventually that taste, you can't, it's so painful. And you die with all of those desires, unfulfilled desires in your mind that brings you again back. That's the situation. But in Krishna consciousness, as if we can cultivate the taste for devotional service, so like Prahlad, this wonderful, we've been somehow, I think one of my trips, we did a selection of verses from Prahlad, and they kind of stick with you, And he's describing his state of mind when he's praying to Lord Nrsingadev. And he has this says, Naibod Vijay, I have no problem. I'm not at all in anxiety. Naibod Vijay Padadoratya Vaitaranyas. I've already crossed over the difficult to cross over Vaijayanti, not Vaijayanti, what is it? Naibod Vijay Padadoratya Vaitarani River, which is the barrier between the material and the spiritual world. No, not the causal ocean. This is like it's like a border river between the material and spiritual world. And so Nrsingadev is there. He's with Nrsingadev because he's always Krishna conscious. So he's also there. He says, I'm already in the spiritual world. And the proof is, whenever I want, I can chant your glories and merge my mind into an ocean of nectar. Now it's not dependent, even if you're paralyzed, you can't speak, you can still think. If you've cultivated Krishna consciousness, then you can think of Krishna, become absorbed, which was Prahlad's, specialty, remembrance, and be happy in any condition, even in this material world. So that's how we can be happy here, not through sense gratification, but by being always Krishna conscious and always in the service and glorification of Krishna, and through meeting other devotees and glorifying Krishna together. That comes up in the next chapter. Essential verse. 4 essential verses, 10, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 9 says, Matchita magata prana bodhiyantak parasparam katayantastamanitam tushyanti chadamanti cha. It says, my devotees, understanding that, as he's describing here, I'm the source of everything, aham sarvasya bhavavo mata sarvabhavatade, I'm the Supreme Lord. And those who are intelligent, they worship me with all their hearts. And what do they do for recreation? They get together. Matchita, they're thinking of me. Madgata prana, their lives are dedicated to me, and they get together and glorify me, and they tushyanti chadamanti. Tushyanti means satisfaction and spiritual pleasure, ramanti, by just glorifying Krishna together. The basic principle is like kirtan. You chant, I hear, I chant, you hear. And in this way, we enjoy. Where's the sense gratification? There's no sense gratification. We're gratifying Krishna, and that's why we're happy, because we're part and parcel of Krishna. So that's eternal platform of enjoyment. That's what's going on in the spiritual world with all kinds of varieties. So we need to get from here to there, and this is where we are right now. For so many lifetimes of Brahma, we've been there. Do we want to hang around for the time of the universal annihilation? We can get a little taste of it. Just let's go visit Sydney right now, Australia. It's horrible. All of the climate change. I mean, how more explicit is it? Is it obvious that it's going on? Terrible storms coming up, horrible hurricanes. It's happening right away. And it's just a taste. It's just why do we want to go through that again and again? We don't. And it's not selfish to want to get out. We should try to solve our problems by really actualizing the knowledge given in this Bhagavad Gita, and there's so much instruction right in this 9th chapter. And in taking as many people with us as possible, because we're all brothers and sisters here. We're all children of Krishna. And everyone is suffering. People are suffering so much. And we've had a taste of it in our own lives. You can see how life is without Krishna, without a hint of any God in your life, how dry it really is. There's no substance. It's just what is Prahlad? He calls it a Shruti Sukar Mrigatishni Rupa. So much of it is in the mind, anticipating the enjoyment of it, and it has the nature of a mirage. It's enticing, you go for it, and then when you get it, it's not there. It all dissipates, you know. And Krishna is just the opposite. To hear about him is to be with him. You know, if you really hear, he's there in the sound vibration. And not true of the sense gratification. It's not there in the sense gratification. Then you have to work so hard, make the money, go buy it, you know, and experience it, and it always disappoints. So Krishna is giving us some insight into what's really going on, the big picture. He's always there, engineering everything. And we're merging and then coming out, and merging and then coming out, and going through all kinds of dreams of enjoyment and suffering and all of these different things. And we're far away from our home. Hare Krishna. Please have a seat. Yeah. So, do we have any questions or comment? It's automatically manifested again and again, and then it gets destroyed. And now he says, I'm not bound by this at all. Nachamangtani karmani. Page 387. 387. Udasi nabadnanti dhananjaya. Udasi nabadasinam. Asaktam teshu karmasu. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. Purport. One should not think in this connection that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no engagement in his spiritual world. He is always engaged. In the Brahma Samhita 5.6 it is stated, Atma ramasya tasyasti prakritya nasamagama. He is always involved in his eternal, blissful, spiritual activities. But he has nothing to do with these material activities. Material activities are being carried on by his different potencies. The Lord is always neutral in the material activities of the created world. This neutrality is mentioned here with the word udasinavat. Although he has control over every minute detail of material activities, he is sitting as if neutral. The example can be given of a high court judge sitting on his bench. By his order, so many things are happening. Someone is being hanged, someone is being put into jail, someone is awarded a huge amount of wealth. But still, he is neutral. He has nothing to do with all that gain and loss. Similarly, the Lord is always neutral, although he has his hand in every sphere of activity. In the Vedanta Sutra 2.134, it is stated, Vaishamya nar grinyena. He is not situated in the dualities of this material world. He is transcendental to these dualities. Nor is he attached to the creation and annihilation of this material world. The living entities take their different forms in various species of life according to their past deeds, and the Lord doesn't interfere with them. So this is, again, an inconceivable quality, because on the one hand, he's with us all the time as the super soul in our heart. He never abandons us. He's always trying to give us good advice. He's providing intelligence, remembrance, forgetfulness. But if we, stubbornly don't take the advice, the good instruction that he gives internally and also externally through Bhagavad Gita, he's not, crushed. Oh, they're not. He's going on. In other words, it's an arrangement. If we take a step forward toward Krishna, if we do even a little service, then he responds and he tries to bring us further in. It's something called a Gita Sukriti. It's like, on the way over here, I picked up a penny on the ground. Because somebody dropped that penny. Usually people don't pick up pennies anymore. It's hardly worth anything. But it's, huh? Oh, you do? There you go. So, because I know I'm going to pick up that penny and I'm going to put it in that box. Somebody dropped that penny unknowingly, but that they maybe worked, to make that penny. And so I put it in that box, and that eventually will be collected and spent for Krishna's service, and so they're getting credit for that. Agyata Sukriti means good works unknowingly done. So even if it's unknowingly done, it still goes into the ledger on the plus side. And so sometime future, in this life or a future life, someone will again do a little more service, until finally they wake up and do a lot of conscious service, and that's the opportunity we have. Let's not do it agyata, let's do it gyata, let's do it knowingly. And Krishna responds to that personally. Exactly according to our approach, he responds. Ye yatam apapadyante, tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Mama vartmana vartante, manusyak partasarvasya. He says in the 4th chapter. As everyone surrenders unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone is following my path in all ways. Now some people try to interpret that as, oh, no matter what you do, you'll go back to Krishna. No, that's not what he's saying. He says, according to your activities, I respond accordingly. In other words, everything is, in one sense, it's a verse like this. Idam mi visham bhagavan. This universe is Bhagavan, is the Lord as well. But it seems not to be. Idam mi visham bhagavan iva itara. Itara means other than him. Well, how is this universe Bhagavan? Because it's made of his energy. There's no place, there's no angstrom unit, square inch, that doesn't have his influence, that is not composed of one of his lower energies, and has him personally in every atom as the super soul. He's omnipresent, right? So how is any of this universe not connected to him? It is all connected. But if we worship him indirectly by working on the material energy, trying to draw out some wealth and joy, then he'll reciprocate that way, and that through the material energy, exactly according to our means of approach, and that means a lot of suffering, because we're meant to be connected to him personally, but it takes cultivation of the proper vision. We can't see him now because of the covering of the material world, and so the great Krishna himself and the acharyas, those who follow him, they make arrangements so that through the material energy we can perceive him. After all, harekrishna mantra is a sound. There are so many sounds. Sound is being caused by some vibration that's going through the air and everything. This deity is carved from marble. This building is made of bricks and whatever, right? But because it's done in such a way, the forms, the sounds, it connects us to Krishna. They're transcendental, it's spiritual. Same thing with prasadam. Looks like ordinary food, but when it's prepared with good consciousness, offered with good consciousness, and especially also honored in good consciousness, then it's a sacrament. It's a sacrament that draws you closer to Krishna. It's a very intimate exchange. It's like if somebody you love, you prepare some nice prasadam, here, take this, and they say, okay, that's too much for me, you take some of it, And so it's an exchange. Even eating is very purifying. So how to do that, that's an art and a science that we need guidance, and that's why we have all these teachers who are realized, they get the knowledge, they know the books backwards and forward, they live them, and my little mantra, learn it, live it, give it, The acharyas, they learn it, they know it, they live it according to the Shastra, and they give it out. Those three things. And so we can also become little acharyas, very dear to Krishna. It's not impossible. We just have to become purified. So, he's saying here, and we just read, that he's not bound up by this. He has no personal desire for this creation. It's necessary. Bhagavad compares it as just like a prison house. But it's a prison house where we're meant to be reformed, and there's all kinds of facility for reform. But still, it's Durga. You know what Durga means? You can't go. You can't go. You can't leave the prison house. You can be released by higher authority, but you can't go on your own. That's why he says in chapter 7, Daivi yesha gunamahi mama maya dorotyaya, that this material energy of mine, composed of the three modes of nature, is impossible to cross over on your own. But if you surrender to me, you can easily cross beyond it. Just like the governor or the president, can pardon you. Sorry for calling to mind that particular image. But the king, pious king like Maharaj Yudhishthira, they can release anyone who's actually reformed, who's actually become pious. So when we, actually purify our heart through the process of bhakti yoga, and our desire is again to serve Krishna, not our senses, so forth, we can go back home, back to God. We get released from the bondage of this illusion and become completely happy again. Wouldn't that be great? Okay. Any discussion? We're coming up on now really a memorable verse, this text 10. So this one maybe you can memorize. Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam Hetunanena kaunteya jagad vipadivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Purport: it is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation. But the management is being conducted by material nature. Krishna also states in the Bhagavad Gita that of all the living entities in different forms and species, I am the Father. The Father gives seeds to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly the Supreme Lord by his mere glance injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature, and they come out in their different forms and species according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with this material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. Now, Krishna will describe in the next verse of those who deride him when he appears in the human form, because when he appears as Krishna, it's practically inconceivable that this person, just like Brahma, where it didn't compute. There's this little boy with a little fruit and yogurt in his hand, and a flute under his. He's not even a cow herd yet; he's a calf herd, and that's my master. He's the Mahavishnu from which I appeared, and so you know the story. It's called Brahma Vimohan Lila. It means he became bewildered, because it's all inconceivable. Here's this power manifestation we've just been hearing about, this creation, the time spans and the size of Mahavishnu. It's just so awe-inspiring. And yet here's this little child who's anything but awe-inspiring. How could they be the same person? So he tried his trick of, he didn't hurt anybody like Indra. We went overboard completely. But he put the calves under the sleep, the mystic sleep, and then he put the boys under the mystic sleep. And he said, well, what's Krishna going to do now? If he can't do anything, I'll know that he's not God, So he comes back there for a moment of his time, which is a year of our time. This is another real interesting thing, the practically infinite malleability of time, So he's gone for just a couple of seconds or less, and he wants to see, well, how's Krishna managing now? He must be all alone and worried, There's no change. There's the boys, there's the calves. So wait a minute, I just put them into my mystic slumber into the cave. He goes, checks on them, and they're still sleeping nicely, and the calves are resting and napping. And so he comes back, and he couldn't figure it out. So finally, he just surrenders. And what happens is that Krishna, then all the calves, all the boys turn into Vishnu forms, and they're all being worshipped by everything, and they've got garlands of tulsi leaves and everything. And so he realizes he's been playing with fire. That Krishna, even though he's in the form of a little boy, he is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's a really delightful way in which the power is being shown. Here it's just being stated. In the 11th chapter, we'll see a more dramatic demonstration. But this particular verse, under my supervisions, Maya Yakshena Prakriti. Prakriti is this material energy. She's working, but she doesn't do anything independently. In other words, all of her power to do anything and what to do is coming from Krishna. But he's behind the scenes. But see, it doesn't work independently. This is the big fallacy of the scientists. They look at how nature is working and say, oh, now we understand how it's happening. If we just make this little adjustment, we just do something with the genes. We got getting the genes, Oh, we got so much more crops. We'll make so much more money. I mean, that's the whole mood of it. So they're manipulating, but they don't understand that behind the whole thing is God. They've forgotten that. And when you adjust nature, you try to manipulate nature, you screw up. I mean, look at this whole world. I mean, all this carbon and all this. This is Mother Nature. She's giving the last word. And it looks pretty bleak. It's just like, most of us have had some, at least we know what happens when someone gets completely controlled by alcohol or drugs, You can't, they can't reason with them. This addiction has got a hold of them. Just like Krishna says in the 3rd chapter, the lust or the desire takes over the mind and the intelligence and the senses. And in this way, you become a slave, to that stuff. So the same way, can you imagine if you were one of the elite, who had $1 billion and you're working on your 2nd billion or your 10th billion? There are, I don't know, a few thousand of them now in the world. How the very process of making that money and having it is kind of an addiction. Having that much power, even though it doesn't take much, but it's not a mystery that you're doing that has hurt so many people, and you're ruining the earth, and climate change and pollution and manner of suffering is going on because of what you're doing. You don't see it anymore. Your heart has become so hardened by that generally. I mean, there's all kinds of people in reaction. But the very process of struggling and making that money puts you in a frame of mind where you don't want to lose it. You don't want to decrease it, And so, but that very fact, multiplied by the number of people who have billions and hundreds of millions, is destroying the earth. Is destroying the viability of, for externally, Krishna can make an arrangement with, it's not going to happen. But that's what it's looking like. And what is a kind of madness? Destroying the very basis of your, the viability of the environment that we live in. What causes that? On an individual level, you can see someone gets so addicted, they destroy their life, the family, leaves them as something, gambling, is just as big an addiction. So material life means big and small addictions that you're given to. That covers your intelligence. And you try to make an excuse why it's okay, it's all right, just one more time, I'm going to win or something, it's not so bad, I see people still smoking cigarettes after all this time. Young people, I live in an apartment building, and you see there's a couple of smokers. They have to come outside because whoever's renting the apartment doesn't want to smoking in it. Why? Just got to have it. The body is telling you. So that's exactly what's going on the mass scale. That's what it means to be conditioned. Your real consciousness is covered by your material desires and your conditioning. So Krishna consciousness means by the antidote of the higher taste that comes from Krishna consciousness, you become enlightened, and you realize, oh, these attachments and these activities are not good for me. They're holding me back. It says right here, the knots in the heart. So therefore, let me chant Hare Krishna. Let me go through the process and learn. So there's on all levels. We're working with the senses. We're working with the mind. We're working with the intelligence. These books work with the intelligence, because ultimately we have to strengthen that intelligence so that the mad mind, which wants to enjoy, and the senses which are pulling you, you can say no. Chant Hare Krishna. Go to the temple. Do what you're supposed to do. And in this way, all of this, makes more and more sense. It makes more and more sense. And, to see, okay, nature is working so wonderfully, but behind it is Krishna. I just read about it. So you can see Krishna in the workings of nature. That Krishna has been coming back again and again. The 7th chapter, what do we learn? I am the taste of water. I'm the light of the sun and the moon. I'm the fragrance of the earth. Right? That means when we taste water, when we see the sun, think of Krishna. Let everything remind you of Krishna. But it only works when you're cultivating the devotional mood and you want to use everything in the service of Krishna that you can, then you really begin to see Krishna at every moment. And that's what we're trying to get, so that at any moment it can come. My old friend Ratnabhushan, he didn't die, but he got hit by a car on his bike. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, this was a month ago or so. He's recuperating. But who knows? You're riding along, some guy's texting or something. There's all kinds of dangers. Danger at every step. So we have to be ready. As I always say, nikshvase nahi vishvasyo, kadarudho bhavishyati, kirtane mata balyad, hare nama eva kevalam. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. This is one verse of Ashtaka by Sri Nilakanta, an associate of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How can you argue with that? Right? We forget. I'm okay. I'm only 25. I got my whole life ahead of me. Yeah, but you don't know how long that life is. We all have our whole life ahead of us. Nobody's going to die. But now, when we're awake, we have to use every second to deepen our Krishna consciousness. I just learned a verse about Giridhari's lotus feet. Fragrance. Let me see if I can remember it. Padimalavasat bhuvanam sadasamoda rasagaro lambam giridadi param bojam kat katadasaka samihate hatum. Got an interesting beat to it. It says the fragrance of Sri Giridhari's lotus feet are perfuming the whole world, the universe. And the taste of those lotus feet, the nectar in the lotus feet, is pleasing the bee-like rasika devotees who can taste the service of his feet. What devotee who has developed the ability to taste the nectar of Krishna kindness would possibly ever give up those lotus feet? And then it goes on describing the lotus feet. This is in a book called Govinda Lilamrita. And can you imagine? If we learn that verse or so many descriptions and we're able to just remember them and chant them and give it full pleasure, then what can sense gratification do? It becomes completely insignificant. That's where the real taste is. So that's what we're trying to do. Unfortunately now, we have to adjourn. But fortunately those curtains will open and we'll be able to see Giridhari himself. All right, I put this in for tomorrow. So we've got both the marker. Never again will we... You're asking me now? We will begin on 11 tomorrow. Okay. I've got the bookmark and the individual mark. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.